Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast. I'm Angus Pyke. Steve Jobs once said, good artists copy, great artists steal. We're going to talk a little bit about that quote in a moment, but mostly today, we're going to be talking all about content creation, how to come up with great ideas for your content so it builds lots of know, like, and trust, which ultimately ends up with the phone ringing. Coming up with great ideas for your content can be really difficult. It's one of the things that I still occasionally struggle with. I struggle with it way less now because of what I'm going to teach you in this episode. And it's certainly one of the challenges that most of my coaching clients have also. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of things to think about that will help you come up with great ideas. Now let me go back to this quote. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Now, Steve Jobs said that Pablo Picasso said it. Picasso actually took it from somebody else who probably took it from somebody else. There's a bit of irony there as well. The quote is probably hundreds of years old. It changes in a little way. Now, what did Steve Jobs mean by that? Well, I think the word that kind of gets mixed up here, and when you start to read online about maybe what Steve Jobs meant about it, is that this word steal, he was probably referring to making it your own. And he goes on to say that there are probably no new ideas, but when we look at what other great people are doing, if we steal from that and then we go and make it our own, that's really what he was referring to, or at least that's what people think he was referring to as well. There's some great stuff online that the Apple kind of presidents and vice presidents talk about now. So what has this got to do with you and I coming up with content to share on our website, on our socials, maybe on our podcast, all those kind of things? Well, I think we should be doing this. I think we absolutely should be stealing ideas from other people and then making them our own. Now, that second part of it is really important, making it your own. Now, the good news is that even, let's just say that you really love helping people with, let's talk about immune system. It seems to be a topic that's really kind of popular at the moment. You get online and you see somebody's made a great video about immune system. They shared 4 or 5 different tips. Even if you take that same idea and you share 4 or 5 tips, the fact that it's you delivering it in your practice with your own words means it's your video. Now, I don't want you to go as far as to copy perhaps all of their 5 tips and every word they're saying, but even if you did use those 5 tips, but you kind of put your spin on each of those and you built from it, it's a really great way to come up with content. And it's the foundation of a lot of what I do with these podcasts, with a lot of the videos that I share. Now, I have a bunch of go-to resources where I'm constantly coming up with content. The number one resource that I have, and I want you using this as a resource too, is I love to read. And so I read in 2 different ways. I read actual books on my Kindle and I listen to a lot of books as well. And so every month there's maybe 1, if not 2 books that I'm kind of reading and listening to that are all about marketing and communication. So I'm constantly coming up with ideas. Now, when I'm reading a book, this is why I like my Kindle so much. As I'm reading the book and I find a great idea, I'll just highlight it there, which means at the end of the book, I can go back, there'll be notes about it, there'll be highlights. And if I happen to be kind of reading in an old-fashioned style of book there too, I always read with a pen and or kind of sticky notes in there. So at the end of me actually looking at this book, I can go back again and I can pull out all the bits and pieces. Now, the other way I'll sometimes go about it is we always have our phones with us. So that means that, if I'm reading through something, I see a really great idea. Inside my phone, I have, in the notes section, I have a section there that's called podcast ideas. And so when I find something that's a great podcast idea, I put it immediately into there. Now, in the past, I've tried remembering these things. And then when it comes around to podcast recording time, I always forget them. So for me, having a note section on my phone where I'm keeping up with these ideas is really helpful. So I get a lot of my ideas for these podcasts just from books. Now, if you're wanting to position yourself as an authority and as an expert in a certain arena, whether it be immune system that we were talking about before, posture care, hormonal balance, pregnancy, fertility, all those kind of things, you absolutely must be staying current with the information that's out there, which means at very least once a month, you should be finding a book and reading it. Now, this might not mean that you read it cover to cover and really, really study it, although I think that would be a good idea if it was a great book. But you should be going on to Amazon and looking under whatever your area of expertise is and really keeping up to date with great ideas. So you should really be reading books. Now, the other ways I come up with ideas is podcasts. I love consuming podcasts. If you go inside my podcast app, there's probably 15 or 20 podcasts that I'm checking in with each week. I don't listen to every episode, but I get ideas from that as well. Now, that might be on a completely different topic. I might be kind of learning about cars, or I might be learning about learning, and I get an idea that I can kind of bring over from there right back to us. So podcasts is another idea that I get lots of my podcast concepts from there as well. Now, I'm also following other people that kind of do what I do, but in other industries, okay? So I think you should be following other practitioners. Are there other practitioners out there, again, that might be sharing information in the same niche? So maybe fertility issues, but maybe it's another practitioner who has another area that they focus on, but you really love the way that they go about it. So it might be somebody who does amazing kind of work on back pain. You're not interested in back pain, maybe you're interested in kind of raising healthy families. But this person does great work. They have great videos, you love their style, you love their energy, and so you're going to use that as inspiration. So you absolutely should be bookmarking 5, 6, maybe 10 different practitioners who do really great work, and you should be checking in on them all the time. And again, we're not going to copy their content, but we're going to use that as a foundation, and we're going to then really build upon it from there as well. The other thing you should be doing is a good old Google search. Get on there, do a Google search on your topic and see what's going on at the moment. What's in the news, what websites are kind of popular there. Jump onto those websites, look at what kind of ideas they have. Now, one of the ways that you can kind of shortcut that Google search, and I came across this maybe 15 years ago, it's fantastic, is this concept called a Google Alert. Now, what a Google Alert will do is that you can get Google to send you an email. It used to only be with a Gmail address, but they'll send it to anywhere now. And you can say, hey, Google, can you send me an email? Now, you can choose whether it's once a day, twice a day, once a week, once a month, on all the information that's going on around headaches. And then you can dive a bit deeper. You can say, I want all the news items, I want all the research stuff, I want the top websites. And so you'll get an email as often as you have it set about. So that's sending you the latest information. Now, between reading a book once a month, checking in on some podcasts, maybe bookmarking some practitioners who are doing great work that you really like, a Google search and these Google alerts, there's an endless supply of information that should be coming to you. Now, what's important with this is that you have a little note section. And what I'm going to suggest is that perhaps once a month is that you sit down and you go through this search idea, trying to do it every now and then, whether that be shooting your content, your videos, coming up with blog posts, coming up with your social media posts, those kind of things. Do them kind of higgledy-piggledy, kind of one at a time. It's really hard work. It's often called switch tasking. But when we block book this all in together, say, okay, on the first kind of Monday of each month, I set an hour aside to come up with all my content ideas. I do a bit of a research. I check in with my Google alerts. I go through the books that I've read in this last week, month, whatnot, get all the notes out of those, check in with the podcasts, all those kind of things, pull all that information together. And you'll probably have 15, 20, maybe 30 ideas from there as well. Pick the best ones and get to work. So I really like what Steve Jobs was saying. It has been the foundation of what helps me come up with content. Good artists copy, great artists steal. And then I would put some brackets on the end of it and say, great artists steal, and then they make it their own. Okay, we want to see you. I've talked about this a lot. We want your authentic kind of you-ness flowing through it. I want to know your spin on things as well. So that's my thoughts on how to come up with great ideas, content ideas as well. If you've got any questions about this, then reach out to me on the socials and I can continue to help you with this as well. Now, as always, gang, thanks for what you do. Keep saving lives. See you back here real soon. Bye. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out the Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work one-on-one with you to apply, implement, systematize, and help guide you and your practice to the next level. Now you can join me on over at adiomedia.com/join. That's adiomedia.com/join. I'd love to see you in there.